Casual event here in Edgewood, British Columbia, at the site of the ostrich farm that has gripped so much attention, not just across Canada, but around the world. It's been an important story for a number of reasons, and I thought I would take a huddle with Drea Humphrey, who's been leading our coverage on this file for months, Sid Bizarre, who's been here for weeks. And you know, I counted, and over the course of time, we've actually had 6 different Rebel News reporters rotate through here, and you might be thinking, why? Why is this an important story? And I didn't catch on right away either until I saw some of Drea's work. Drea, why has this turned into a massive international story?
It actually starts back to the minks. Many people don't realize that during COVID, a mink farming industry was completely wiped out by unelected bureaucrats in the name of COVID-19. Now, they, unlike these farmers, chose not to publicly stand up. It all happened quietly and in the dark. These farmers were different. These farmers were special, and so were the herd that they wanted to save. And so when I saw that there were farmers that were willing to say no to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and say they should live because they're healthy, I knew it was going to be an important story.
I estimate you've done maybe 100 reports from there.
It's very close. You know, like you said, the team has started to help, so that's added to the close to 100 reports that I would say we've done.
And you built a level of trust with the family. I was talking to one of the neighbors who said that her entire worldview has been changed. She doesn't believe she can trust the mainstream media anymore, and this is a new thing for her because she just can't reconcile what is actually happening with what CTV and CBC are happening. I thought that was an incredible thing. You, on the other hand, have built trust.
Absolutely. They have welcomed me to be in there, sometimes behind the scenes, while they're trying to figure out their next step. And they are just the most welcoming people. They are exactly who you would expect farmers to be. Hardworking. They were going out early mornings doing the chores. Now the state has robbed them of that. But then still inviting all of these people. I don't know how they've done it for 10 months to be a part of this fight. They've been eating with them, crying with them, rejoicing with them on the wins they had along the way, and now they're preparing to fight back in a new way.
Well, I know. Even though the ostriches were massacred in the last few days, the Rebel News will stay committed to this story. Now, Sid, you have an interesting contrast because you were at the Coutts blockade. That was the main convoy for the truckers was in Ottawa. That was the big show. But in Alberta, truckers, farmers, grassroots people said, we've got to do something about Alberta's lockdown. You were embedded in that for 2 weeks almost. Compare, if you would, the people's sort of peaceful revolution you've seen here with what you saw in Coutts.
It is actually, there are many similarities. I guess the one difference would be I was inside the security zone in Coutts, and a lot of the supporters were stuck outside, like these people are stuck outside from coming to these animals. But there is actually quite a bit of overlay, and these people, obviously, they strongly care about this story. And so much so, they've been staying here for weeks. They've got a full kitchen setup. This is the same thing we had in Coutts. In Coutts, they went from having no food in this facility that they were using to having a basement entirely filled with food. No joke. Just feeding everybody that came through, taking care of anybody who would attend. And that's the same thing they're doing here. They actually care. And that's the thing about a lot of these protesters, is they're fighting for something that's worth caring about. And that's why they're putting in the effort. And to your point, it's very similar to the Coutts blockade in more ways than just on the ground stuff. It's also the conspiratorial scientific backbone that rests behind this story that is also interesting to some of it.
And I think there's another comparison, which is the police. You know, there's a phrase, the Reichstag fire. As you know, that's a phrase for sort of a false flag incident. That's how Hitler seized power. It was the Reichstag being torched. In fact, so there's that phrase, the Reichstag fire. I think that's what happened in Coutts. Justin Trudeau needed a provocation so he could justify invoking the Emergencies Act. And so they arrested some guys that said, oh my God, there's a paramilitary. Like the RCMP was instructed by their boss to give them an excuse to invoke martial law. I feel like there's a similar police angle here. The police, who have no business being here, have been here for months. The largest police operation in British Columbia right now. And especially over the last few days, it looks like they were trying to provoke the family and friends into, I don't know, violence, public disorder, so they could flip the script and have some sort of justification for arrest.
Well, and the point about that is they got worse to try and make the situation worse so that they could use more power. That seems like the default process here. And I do want to make a note about the police. As you know, we've seen the behavior that they've enlisted upon so many people here. But when I arrived, it was the middle of the night, so nobody was awake. But their RCMP stop checkpoint, that's right over there, that was still set up, 2 cop cars were there. And 3 out of 4 of the cops were asleep behind the wheel. And I do have a bit of footage of that. It is very dark, but you can still see that they're asleep. And so the point I'm trying to make there is, well, number one, you shouldn't be asleep on the job. But number two, these officers are on 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shifts every single day. They're rotating in and out. It is stressful on them as well in that capacity. Now, I'm not relieving them of the things that they've done, but the CFIA is really cracking the whip here.
Can I add
go
to
ahead.
that? You talk about the stress that's on them. What we saw during the night of the killing was a shift on the officers you normally see at this front line. All of a sudden, it was mostly younger officers we've never seen before, and quite a few of them seemed to be antagonizing the grieving farmers, the grieving neighbors who are also family and all love the ostriches. More of that is to come on our special website, avengetheostriches.com. But I spoke to somebody who's experienced, a former officer, and he said that is probably because this situation has been wearing on the officers who were there. So when they knew the kill was going to happen, they needed to have a harder presence here instead of the ones that might break.
Well, the killing happened, and I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. I came here with sort of a list of 17 questions, and they're real questions, they're fact questions, like who did the killing, what weapons did they use, did they sedate or tranquilize the animals. I had a lot of, those are basic factual questions that any transparent police force should answer. Bizarrely, they refuse to answer those questions even by phone, whereas a few weeks ago they had an in-person interview with me. There's so much opacity instead of transparency. Drea, what's going on with the secrecy? Why are there drones in here? Why did they build haystacks so no one could see what was happening in the kill zone? There was more effort and money spent on hiding what was going on than what was going on.
There are so many questions like that, including how is it legal for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to have tampered with the farm's cameras? Literally blocked them, and we don't know if damaged any of them. Now, I want to point out who should be and who I believe is at the head of the operation here, at least for the RCMP. I want to get the names exactly right here. Just for a second. So it should be that it is the Assistant Commissioner, John Brewer, who's in charge of this whole thing, operating here in BC from the E Division. And then, of course, he would defer to the commanding officer. The commanding officer, Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald, would be accompanied with that, and then that all falls under Mike Doohan, who of course is the commissioner out of Ottawa. But do you think you can find someone here on the ground showing a face to this operation that is using so many tax dollars and resources? We have drug labs that need to be busted. We have I can't help but think of how we're lowering the standard, lowering the minimum sentence for pedophiles, and then we have cops out here doing this type of stuff. It's just a sign of us going so backwards.
It's really crazy. Well, listen, I want to thank the both of you. I mean, Drea, you've been out here so long. We were able to, through the generosity of our viewers, crowdfund an RV. So you could actually stay here, and you brought some of your family here. And I'm really glad, because you're a mom. You're a busy mom. You got a household back home, but you transplanted yourself here for weeks and weeks. I'm grateful to you. Sid, you were one of 6 rebels that rotated through here, and I think you were sleeping in your car, is that right?
Correct.
Well, I guess that's how it was down in Coots, too.
Yeah, well, I turned it into a proper reportmobile. I learned from last time.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. You know, Rebel News, our motto is telling the other side of the story, and I think we really did that here. And you know, I'm delighted to see so many other citizen journalists here our friend Chris Dacey, also members of the Independent Press Gallery, and I've gotten to know a few of them, but I always find that encouraging because that's how you're going to get around the regime media, which is the regime has decided crush the ostrich farm, and it's like the CBC and the CTV have become stenographers of the CFIA. So I'm delighted to see that the story got out despite the regime media. So thank you, Drea. Thank you, Sid. Thanks to Rebel News viewers who have chipped in to help pay for our costs. As Drea suggested, we're going to move from SaveTheOstriches.com to AvengeTheOstriches.com. We've done another video that I hope you'll watch where we had a heart-to-heart with the family for almost an hour, talking about what's happened and some of the potential future steps. Our reportage will likely wrap up on the scene here probably in the next few days. Although, who knows how long the RCMP are going to stay here, right, Drea?
Well, that's the thing. After everything that's happening, we saw the farmers come out, look at their empty pens in more devastation, and they're saying, get out of here. What more do you want to take from us? Can't we at least have our land back? They're not even getting an answer to that. The warrant has no end.
Let me close with something I've referred to several times today. And I really encourage you to look this up. It's a quick read. It's called Sir Robert Peel's Principles of Policing. And you might wonder, why are British police called the Bobbies? Well, they're named after Sir Robert Peel. And he had these principles of how the police maintain the trust and support of the community. And you look through that list, and it's like the RCMP have broken every single one of those. And the thing is, you can only do that so much before the community no longer respects or even obeys the police. I think the police massacred their reputation while the CFIA massacred the birds. On behalf of Rebel News, thank you for your support. And I promise you we will keep telling the other side of the story. And this was an important story for anyone who cares about freedom, property rights, limited government, transparency, and, I don't know, the ability to live freely. And as farmers, yeah. Last word to you, Drea.
My last word is another thank you to everybody, not only who helped support our journalism here, but also shared. Please continue to share. This is breaking through the echo chamber because on a very basic level, everybody knows you should not kill animals for no reason, which is exactly what happened here. So we are going to avenge the ostriches at AvengeTheOstriches.com. And thanks again.
Thanks, Drea, and thanks, everybody. Go listen. All right, thanks.